Hi-ya, hi-ya, hi-ya. Chinook were a people who lived near the sea before lines on a map on the land came to be, keeping folks who say Z from the ones who say Z. The Chinook drew a life from the ocean. The Chinook is a wind, an arch in the sky, over the Rockies blowing down warm and dry, breaking the hold of a cold Arctic high, and bringing a relief to the prairie. And then the Chinook was an Alberta train, CP's Edmonton, Calgary streak on the plain, running south in the morning and northward again, spending nights in the capital city. Displaced by diesels, her coaches dispersed to the east, then at Cranbrook they gathered adverse. Are ye mountain or prairie, last nations or first? Don't you think that it's time you decided? As long as the rivers continue to run, wind blows on the prairie, grass grows in the sun. I'm a link and a pulse and a breath all in one, on a journey begun, never ending. Kootenai elders are coming and smudging my cars, Blood Pagan and Siksika, all peoples of ours. Safe return as I roll under sun, cloud, and stars to my home in the land of the Nahia. Chinook are a people who live near the sea, a train on the plain, Edmonton, Calgary. A warm wind and spirit reassuring when we need a breath and a touch of Kanata.
Visualizing the Chinook Centre for Arts and Re-Education. Let's clear up what we mean by a couple of words. Visualizing is more than artists' sketches or vision statements in words. It's conjuring up picture possibilities. A book we read that comes alive in our minds. A movie we see on screen as someone tells a story. Everyone's movie will be different as the pictures the words conjure up for us, like our lives are different. No teacher, producer, or stage manager has a script that takes these all in. But like a mystery we solve by sharing clues, what each of us images makes for a richer production. Re-education doesn't come if we cancel old labels to apply new ones. It's not getting us all on one page. That's dictation, not education. It's not the straight line of a mule train, tractor train, or a runaway freight. Education looks inside as well as out with a wide field. It invites us to understand, not just explain what we think we know, but to see clearly. A child who sees clearly is more educated than one reciting from a text. The re-education we're scoping here will discover and share a Kanata journey in the soft tea Kanata of the native word, villages of relationships, not a hard D Canada of fixed lines and defenses. Seeing and embracing ourselves as villagers, we can join in constellation with other villages and accept each in its uniqueness. Till we do that, framing national policies and seeking parliamentary majorities will be as misplaced as earlier nation building that ignored nations that were already here. Some who have followed so far may now be asking, so why are you using a train that many see as an invader of the plains as a site for a school to re-educate the invaders? There are 7 good reasons. First, because this train had an indigenous name, not like ones that newcomers used as mascots for sports teams, but a coastal First Nations name that is spread far beyond its historic territory. Prairie people think of Chinooks as warm winds from the west in the winter. The wind is named for people who lived by the Pacific where the wind begins. Chinook people lived at the delta of the Columbia, a river that begins and travels much of its length in Canada. Chinook winds travel inland far from the Chinook people. The Chinook train traveled cross-country for people to see, then ran between Edmonton and Calgary. Second, because we're adding other Indigenous names. Chinook, a day train, had numbered cars, not named ones like sleepers or diners that ran overnight. To the numbers, we've added Indigenous names of people who contributed to the West and Canada, 2 chiefs of a century ago who were warriors, then peacemakers, and 2 living artists and educators who have carried messages around the world. Third, unlike earlier trains that showed up uninvited, the Chinook coaches will travel with First Nations consent. From the Kootenay, where the cars have been for 30 years, through the Blood, Piegan, and Siksika in southern Alberta, to the Nehiha in Edmonton, elders of 5 nations will smudge the cars and grant them safe conduct. Fourth, because our classroom will tell stories of Indigenous leaders, these and others. Not just happy ending stories, but ones we need to hear. How the railway affected people here before and how they met the challenge. Some bargained with the builders and were let down. One blocked the line for a while to get a better deal for his people. Another led a fight he lost, saving the line he fought against. We'll look at pictures, tell and enact the stories, and try to understand them. Fifth, we'll look at First Nations who buy and run railways today, and how this is working for their people and for the rest of us. Sixth, we'll look at circuses, zoos, musicians, clinics, and trappers who traveled by rails that brought them to people in faraway places. Seventh, we'll see our first long railway was planned and paid for not to build a nation, but to reach the Western Sea sailors had been seeking for 400 years to Asia. The Siksika let it pass for that reason. Many whites opposed the railway, afraid it would harm trade with First Nations. A passenger train, even standing, is more than a vehicle. It's a venue for coming together, which still happens in Indigenous communities on lines in remote areas. It's become a mobile Kanata village like those Cartier mistook for the name of a state. That's how we intend to use it. Classroom on Rails will have spaces to learn, move, and make music, to do art, hear each other's stories, and enact them. After hours, it will offer cafe and entertainment. In the summer, it will host exhibits and mini theater. Eventually, it will have a dormitory for overnight events. A train may come off the $10 bill. Sir John's backside we're debating still. The Chinook's coming in to fill its place. Out your 10 spots, get on board.
Jamais assis à la table, il y aura le tombe toqué, quand la danse met à finir.